Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's having a nice weekend and enjoying the marathon so far. The first of two games to be shown will be Ninja Gaiden for the Game Gear. Quite a unique game as opposed to any of the other games in the Ninja Gaiden series. We'll be starting in excuse me. We'll be starting in 3, 2, 1, go. The story is very basic. The keeper of the dragon sword, Ryu Hayabusa, has had attempts of having his dragon sword stolen, and now he must seek out the evil organization that's attempting to do so for their own purposes. Basically to not only take over the world, but also start some kind of a world war. Apparently it was almost stolen at one point, but Ryu managed to prevent it. For the game, there's not too much in terms of ninjutsu that's used, which is basically force ammo. This particular item is the enemy seeking ring, which is very useful against two bosses. Probably one of the most awkward parts about this game is the lack of iframes, so depending on the enemies or item that you hit, you will repeatedly get juggled. This boss is the monk of the Red Tiger cult. Whose only sole objective is to attack you once you're turned away from him. But the enemy seeking ring ensures that you don't have to go close. We'll be using that same sort of ninjutsu enemy seeking ring for this particular boss as well. You don't have to worry about taking too many hits in this particular game just because there's health everywhere. There are a few areas in the game where you will see a temporary Art of the Fire Wheel, which lasts for maybe 10 seconds. But it goes away very quickly. So now for the tugboat for this particular boss, you wait for the fire to show up, and the enemy, which looks like he could have been from Battletoads and Double Dragon, shows up with some dynamite and appears out of different areas. Just use the enemy seeking ring to hit him when he shows up, but try not to get hit by the dynamite. For stage 3, Ryu's climbing a skyscraper in Hong Kong. Nothing abnormal about that, right? Everybody climbs skyscrapers to reach bosses. At least I hope they do. And the boss, Mr. T-Sin, is throwing objects down, hoping that Ryu won't reach him. Usually in Ninja Gaiden games, the birds that show up are very annoying to get rid of. But fortunately you don't have to deal with them at all in this game, as after 3 passes they'll just go away completely. Although I do feel bad for the for the enemies that just climb down, hoping to actually hit Ryu. This particular boss, Mr. Teeson, is 2 parts. You can actually repeatedly slash with good timing the first part of the boss. But after the second time, you don't want to take a hit by his weapon. So we just use the scatter bomb. It uses up the most Nujitsu, but it's very effective. And that particular Nujitsu will be getting used once more. After this particular weapon, which is the wave for attacking enemies that are above you. Just like Ryu, this is the only boss in the game that has no iframes as well. But also because of Ryu's floaty jump, you don't want to jump into particular enemies because you are obstacles, because you will get juggled indefinitely and most likely take a death. Now for the last part of stage 4. Nothing worse than having to deal with probably the oddest enemy of all for Ryu. The deadly Jello, as I'd like to call it. The sole purpose of it is, once you're near, is just to fall from the ceiling. So if you don't stay attached to a wall, you will get hit by it. Now those spikes that you see, you definitely do not want to get hit by those at all, especially due to the lack of iframes that you have. Those are the worst obstacle in the game, where you will get juggled indefinitely and take a death. Now we have the Art of Fire Wheel for a few more seconds, just to get rid of any annoying enemies. And we have the wave once again for the final confrontation boss fight. Going into the final fight, you usually want at least 70. Whoops. You usually want at least 70 or so Nijitsu Force ammo. But unfortunately, because of that death, now I'll definitely have more than enough for the final boss. Usually that doesn't happen if you don't latch onto the wall in time. While it was bad losing the life, at least now I'll definitely have more than enough ammo for the boss. Because each new life or each new stage started, you don't start off with any particular Nijitsu at all. don't want that particular one. One last yellow slime to deal with. And now on to the final boss, Surigami, who's the main antagonist of this organization who's trying to steal the dragon sword. The wave ninjutsu is definitely the best weapon to hit Surigami with. As opposed to using your sword. Surigami has 3 forms. Looks basically like a magician of some sort who could hover in the air. They're in the first phase. The second phase looks like a rejected Batman. The third phase has more of an alien look. This is where you don't want to actually jump into, because of Ryu's floaty jumps, if you accidentally jump too high into the head, you will get juggled indefinitely and unfortunately take a death. And time stops once the fade out to black occurs. Outside of the death, that went okay. Definitely could have been better. Other than that, there's not much of an ending. Surigami's plans have been destroyed. You see a castle explode in the distance, and other than that, that's Ninja Gaiden for the Game Gear. We'll be back shortly with Kid Clown for the NES.